That was Trixie,
exclaimed Rarity as the group heard the scream and took off towards it, except Rainbow, who'd fallen fast asleep. When they arrived, Applejack looked at the scattered apples in shock and despair.
No,
she said, rushing over and looking over the mess in complete shock. Fixing up the farm road on these apples that were now all over the ground. Some obviously would be unusable now from bruising, but she had no idea how many. And the longer they sat on the ground, the more likely something might happen to them, or worms might get in them or something. She desperately tried to pick them up.
Don't just stand there. Help me pick them up. Hurry.
She pled to her friends, who instantly took to helping. Trixie looked in shock as she climbed out of the apples covering her. She didn't know what happened, but she'd been the only one around, and something bad had happened. She looked up at Applejack, seeing how whatever happened must have hurt her, how she must have hurt her. She felt her heart sink looking up at the mare.
Applejack, wow, I must. Applejack, Trixie,
Do you have any idea what you did?
Snapped Applejack, causing Trixie to recoil in surprise and fear.
These apples are the only thing that's going to help us fix this farm. These were really important to my family. We needed them to fix up the farm, and you all might have ruined that.
She yelled in rage, a day's worth of frustration suddenly erupting to the surface in one moment. Then she saw a look on little Trixie's face, a look of pain and fear, tears welling up in her eyes. Applejack instantly felt like someone stabbed her in the heart. Rage cooled by bitter guilt.
Trixie,
Before Applejack could finish, Trixie ran off in the opposite direction, crying her eyes out.
Trixie,
called Applejack, but she could only watch as the poor girl ran off and vanished into some bushes next to the farm. Applejack pinned her ears in guilt and sorrow.
I'm sorry.
Checker gave a cruel, cold smirk as she watched this, then looked to her chessboard.
Nate, and 2.
She stated, turning and noticing Rainbow Dash had fallen asleep.
On second thought, make that 3.
She said thoughtfully, turning and looking... Oops, hold on. The thing's blocking it. There we go. To the Pegasus. She closed her eyes, and her horn lit up the dark violet. Almost instantly, Rainbow began to contort in fear as she slept. Rainbow Dash stood looking at her friends, who were all sobbing, sitting on street corners, begging for money, looking like homeless mares, no better than Trixie had looked when Twilight found her.
What happened? Who did this?
Asked Rainbow, looking at the scene in horror, finding herself in the same fashion as her friends. When she looked upon herself, she felt rage, sorrow, and pain fill her mind.
That would be Trixie.
Said Trixie's voice almost proudly. Rainbow turned to see Trixie, dressed in fine clothing in an extremely fancy chariot.
You!
Yelled Rainbow Dash, glaring daggers at Trixie.
Yes, it was Trixie, Rainbow Crash.
Said Trixie, giving a chuckle as she opened the door telekinetically, her horn glowing dark violet. Rainbow couldn't put her hoof on it, but Trixie's eyes seemed wrong. Just wrong. She just couldn't describe what it was.
Trixie tricked your friends into giving her everything. Well, some of them. Others she just took great satisfaction in ruining in every way she could. You were all so gullible. You really believed all those lies. Trixie told you to earn your sympathy.
She asked with a cruel laugh.
Pathetic.
Rainbow looked up at her in anger, staring daggers through her as the mare laughed.
Now Trixie has a show to put on, and you're going to be the star.
Said Trixie, giving a cold sadistic smirk.
Ready for the spotlight, Rainbow Crash?
Checker opened her eyes as Rainbow sprung awake with a shout a few minutes later and looked around in panic. Checker turned to Helping Hoof and the returning Diamond Dogs. She shushed them until Rainbow regained her wits and noticed she had been left behind, then ran off to find the others.
All right, speak.
Checker said calmly, ignoring the fact that she just committed as she floated a large pouch of gems out of her pocket and threw them over to Rover.
Good job. I knew it was a bright idea to hire you.
She stated, as always sounding more like bragging than praise. Rover opened the pouch and looked at the gems eagerly, but then looked at Checker with uncertainty.
What you do to pony?
He asked, having her do it in the night before, but not understanding it. It honestly scared the Diamond Dog for reasons he didn't know.
No, just a dream infiltration spell used by psychiatrist ponies to better analyze the dreams of their patients. Psychology is a major part of business and manipulation, both of which are my forte, so it falls within my realm of expertise.
Explained Checker, not seeming all that interested in it, more like speaking about a trivial tone. Rover and the Diamond Dogs all gave her a shocked look, even their simple minds able to understand what she said, but none of them spoke.
Of course, unless you're a licensed therapist, using it at all, let alone on some pony without their permission, is highly illegal. At least it is if you get caught. Not that any pony would believe your word over mine, and of course, things would end messy for you if you did, which is naturally why I'm telling you this. Now, come, and let's go watch the fireworks.
She said in a plain, uninterested tone as she let them on.
So I blew my top and yelled at her.
Applejack explained to Twilight, looking and sounding absolutely guilt-ridden.
I was just so frustrated, I lost it. I know Trixie won't do something like this on purpose. I just lost my cool.
Rainbow scoffed.
Don't be so sure.
She muttered. No one else still distrusted Trixie like she did. That dream, it seemed off, but it was what she was afraid of. It just brought the fear back to the surface, just like the dream the night before had reopened her old wounds from being bullied in flight school.
It's all right, Applejack. I know you'd never hurt Trixie on purpose.
Twilight consoled with a hoof on her friend's shoulder, but she still looked worried. Trixie had the personality and emotional state of herself as a filly. Twilight couldn't imagine what the poor mare was going through right now.
I just don't know how it happened, sis,
said Apple Bloom, looking just as guilty as her sister.
We're just playing ball, and then this happened.
She said. She nor her friends remember anything after Checker's spell was put on them until it was broken. The apples had been collected, and only a few were bruised, but it still hurt to know not only had their game hurt their own family, but hurt Trixie as well.
It's all right, Appleloom. We still got enough apples for the fair,
said Applejack, though with the loss of some of the apples, their odds of winning still decreased, but she didn't want any pony to be worried by it.
Poor Trixie, that poor mare's heart must be broken after what I said.
Sakura, having returned with Twilight and Fluttershy to make up the antidote, watched nearby, her saddlebags full of necessary herbs.
Healing hearts can wait for now. Now Trixie must be found,
she said, showing concern. Even if she never met Trixie, she was still worried. After all, she was Twilight's friend. That was good enough for the zebra.
You cannot make up for your outburst. But if you cannot make up for your outburst if we do not find her first.
Sakura's right,
said Twilight.
Girls, let's split up and find Trixie.
She called out, then looked to Rainbow.
All of us.
Rainbow growled.
Fine.
She yelled, still angry and bitter. She took off and flew away to search, though not too hard. Checker kept moving pieces on her chessboard.
Almost done,
she said, looking over as the Diamond Dogs returned.
We found her.
She asked, a tad surprised that they could smell Trixie's scent through their own appalling stench. The trio gave a nod, though they now watched her more closely, almost fearfully. While they did still want her gems and intended to follow her orders to receive them, They now knew just how dangerous their boss was, how even someone's dreams were not safe from her. To a pony, this was a disturbing thought, but at least a unicorn understood how their magic worked, and understood all Checker did was misuse her own power in a wrong and highly illegal fashion. A disturbing thought, but they at least knew what she did. But to the more simple-minded Diamond Dogs who knew very little of how it actually worked, they had little intention of seeing what else she had in her arsenal, especially seeing it used on them. Checker didn't seem to mind. In fact, she seemed to enjoy it. The control their fear gave her over them as something she seemed to relish.
Good. Now let's make sure my little pawn does too.
The indecisive mayor said, looking at the Rainbow Dash piece. Rainbow Dash grumbled as she headed to the woods. It being too thick to look properly from the air, she half wanted to just fly home and get some much-needed sleep, give up on Trixie altogether, but of course Twilight would just chew her out if she did that. Plus, if she found Trixie first, she could give her a serious piece of her mind, which she fully intended to do.
Stupid Trixie. Who does she think she's got fooled?
She grumbled as she walked.
She probably spilled all those apples on purpose, just to mess up Applejack and her family. Why am I the only one who sees... Why am I the only one who sees her for the bully she is?
She exclaimed, letting out her frustration by bucking the air. Suddenly, she heard a rustling in the woods near her.
Huh?
She asked, approaching barely missing Spot shaking a tree as the Diamond Dog fled off as quietly as he could. She walked that way until she anything else.
Is someone there?
She muttered slowly, walking forwards and poking her head through some branches. Seeing Trixie sitting in a clearing, her back to her, Rainbow growled at the sight of her, then realized something. Trixie didn't know she was there. Checker watched from nearby, a cruel grin on her face.
Come on, we know you want to do it. Yell at the little brat so much she runs far, far away from here.
She whispered, looking at a chessboard.
From any possibilities of ever getting back on her hooves.
Rainbow got a rather disturbing smirk. A nasty thought brewing in her head, and she slowly snuck up behind Trixie, her hooves making little to no noise, a little thing she learned hanging out from Fluttershy. Checker got a cruel smirk as she moved Rainbow Dash's piece into position.
Checkmate. Now's the time to show her. I'll never let her mess with me or my friends again.
Thought Rainbow as she approached, spreading her wings to their full length to appear more threatening. Then, as she got closer, she heard the foal sniffling? No. Sobbing. Ew. Refolding her wings, Dash stood perfectly still, listening closely.
I didn't mean to. I'm so sorry. Please forgive me. It was an accident. Please.
The little filly sobbed.
The hay?
Rainbow studied her target. Trixie was hunched over, and even from behind, Rainbow Dash could tell her eyes were clenched. Trixie had curled inwards into a little ball and was pretty much crying her eyes out. She let out another sob as her mantra continued.
I didn't mean to. I'm just playing.
Rainbow Dash's eyes went wide in surprise. There was no one around, or at least it was clear Trixie didn't think there was. She was all alone, and she was crying her eyes out over what she'd done on accident. And Rainbow had been about to give her the hay for something that happened months ago and something she was afraid might happen in the future.
Man, what was I doing?
She whispered as she realized something that shook her to the core. Images of a little rainbow-haired Pegasus curled up on the crowd, crying her eyes out, with her hooves over her ears and flight school, as she was mocked by the entire class, filled her mind, followed by the image of a little blue unicorn doing the same as the same Pegasus yelled her head off at her for something everyone except her tormentor was smart enough to forgive and move on from. Rainbow Dash shook that image away as her expression changed to one of concern, and she sat down next to the filly.
Trixie, are you okay?
She asked in a genuinely concerned tone. Trixie jumped at the sound of Rainbow's voice, eyes wide in fear before she recognized Rainbow.
Oh, it's you.
She said, looking up at Rainbow Dash shamefully, ears pinned.
I'm so sorry about the apples. It was an accident.
The little filly exclaimed in a panic, then looked down with that I'm about to be punished look.
I didn't want you all to hate me. Not again.
She said, lowering her head and looking like she was about to cry again. Rainbow looked down at the filly, at a loss of what to say. She wasn't used to these kind of situations. It was Fluttershy or Pinkie Pie saying, what was she supposed to do?
You're really sorry?
She asked after a few seconds, looking down at the filly. Trixie nodded, looking up at her, tears streaming down her face.
Well, I guess it didn't cause too much trouble, and it was an accident,
said Rainbow, rubbing the back of her head with her hoof, not believing she was saying it after all this, but she couldn't believe how close she'd come to something she knew she'd have regretted. She was just glad she snapped out of it before it was too late.
I forgive you, I guess.
Trixie looked shocked.
You do?
Rainbow Dash gave her a little smile and put her wing on her back to comfort her.
Yeah, now come on. Let's go get you cleaned up. I don't like seeing fools cry. Too many bad memories from flight school.
She said, leading the way. Checker looked on at the scene in utter shock for a few seconds before she smacked the Rainbow Dash chess piece with her hook and sent it flying into a tree where it shattered into magic dust, the only sign of her anger being a small growl.
Pony plan failed?
Spot whispered to his packmates. Checker suddenly spun around, giving the Diamond Dogs a glare that made his heart skip a beat from terror.
My plan didn't fail. My plans never fail. She just should have hated Trixie more and call me boss or Miss Monarch, not Pony.
The mare snarled before regaining her composure again and recollecting her chessboard with her normal, cold, detached look on her face. The only inclination she'd been angry at all was her hair having been slightly messed up.
Let's go. It's time for Plan B.
The group reassembled back at the farm. Rainbow still not back.
I couldn't find Trixie anywhere.
Fluttershy said, worry clear in her tone and voice. Rarity sighed sadly.
I couldn't find her either.
She said, looking around. Applejack looked the most upset of them all. She understood why and put a hoof on her back. Sakura shook her head.
I looked high and low, but Trixie was nowhere I did go.
Twilight paced.
She has to be somewhere. She's in the body of a filly. Where could she have gone?
She asked, looking around worriedly for any sign of her.
Hey, girls.
Called Rainbow Dash's voice, getting everyone's attention as the rainbow-making Pegasus touched down.
Looking for some pony?
She asked, turning to reveal Trixie riding on her back.
Trixie.
Trixie?
Exclaimed every pony as they ran over, exclaiming their relief comments at finding her safe and sound. Applejack looked at Trixie, guilt clear on her face.
Look, I feel just plain awful for what I said. It wasn't right.
She said, taking off her hat and putting it over her chest as she looked down and remorsed.
I'm sorry. Can you forgive me?
Trixie looked surprised by this, but then slowly nodded.
Of course. I'm really sorry I messed up like that. It was my fault.
Applejack nodded, giving a small smile.
I've already forgiven you, Sugar Cube. Accidents happen all the time.
She said, putting a hoof on the little filly's shoulder. Twilight looked in shock at Rainbow Dash, who didn't seem to mind Trixie's prescience anymore.
I think that's supposed to be presence.
Presence anymore.
Rainbow, what happened?
Rainbow looked at Twilight, trying to look nonchalant.
Oh, nothing. I just found her in the woods over there.
Twilight didn't bite for a second.
Should I get Spike?
Later, okay?
Asked Rainbow in a low tone, but gave a small smile. Twilight smiled back, glad Rainbow had a change of heart. She gave a nod, then looked at Trixie.
Trixie, this is my friend Sakura. She's got the antidote to the poison joke ready to go.
She introduced, though she was a little uncertain of how Trixie would react to the zebra. Trixie looked up at the zebra.
Habari, Bibi?
Sakura gave a surprised gasp, but then smiled warmly.
Habari Bibi.
She replied politely. The group just blinked as they looked at the scene.
Okay, what just happened?
Asked Rainbow, giving the two a confused look.
Trixie's magic instructor's affiliate was a zebra. He taught her illusionary tricks when she was with simple herbal dust. He also taught Trixie that phrase. It means, hello, madam, in their language.
Trixie explained, looking to Sakura. Sakura nodded.
And it does my heart good to hear. A greeting from my homeland, dear.
She replied, rather happy.
Now, Mare, who has made you so young again, are you ready for your healing to begin?
Trixie was about to answer, then looked to the Crusaders.
Could Trixie maybe stay affiliate a little bit longer, please?
Twilight watched Trixie and the Kimar Crusaders playing ball once again. Sakura waiting nearby until Trixie was ready to return to her true age. After the last accident, it was decided a watch would be more helpful. Strangely, all the problems they'd faced all day seemed to have been resolved, though she'd been absent for most of them. Twilight smiled, glad to see Trixie having fun for a change. She looked so happy. Twilight turned and got back to work as the four continued their game.
Oh, sorry. No, hold still. This will only take a moment, Applejack.
Rarity, watch what y'all doing with my mane.
Just a little more.
A few seconds later, Rarity turned Applejack in front of a full-length mirror. Her mane had simply been cut a little bit around the ends, and a few split ends clipped here and there. Applejack was rather surprised how different she looked with her mane out of its normal ponytail, allowed to hang straight down. She didn't really make it all that much. It didn't look like her.
I don't know. I don't really look like me.
Fluttershy, standing nearby, gave a small nod.
It's really pretty, but I think whatever Applejack thinks.
Rarity nodded as she looked at her friend's look.
Yes, I see what you mean.
She said, giving it deep thought.
Let's try this, shall we?
She asked and went to work again. Applejack's hair was soon messed up. Applejack's hair was soon in a bun behind her head, though perfectly arranged.
Better.
Applejack gave herself a look in the mirror.
Well, I guess I could wear this to the fair. Still ain't me, but it ain't that bad.
Rarity nodded.
Alright, how about we head over to the spa?
Applejack blinked, giving Rarity a confused look.
Say what now?
To the spa, Fluttershy and I go every week, which is why she's here now. So I thought about taking you along. Would be a good idea. Mainly your hose and fur. Make sure you look presentable in candlelight.
Applejack narrowed her eyes.
And just what does that mean? You saying there's something wrong with how I look?
Rarity sighed and was about to explain when the door flew open, and Pinkie Pie vibrated in. Her entire body was vibrating like crazy to the point she was kind of bouncing around.
Rarity.
I say, but Pinkie Pie, what is going on?
Hi, Rarity. My pinky sense is going crazy again.
Announced Pinkie Pie, not stopping her vibrating at all, her voice oscillating with it.
Oh no, not another doozy.
Exclaimed Applejack, looking surprised.
Yeah, that's it. And whatever it is, it's happening here.
Pinkie replied, vibrating around the three mares.
Another?
Asked Rarity, looking surprised. She then gasped.
This has happened before? What does it mean? What's going to happen to my beautiful petite Applejack?
The white unicorn pleaded, hose on Applejack's shoulders as she went into her typical Rarity hysterics.
Well, last time we ran into a Hydra.
A Hydra? A Hydra is going to attack my shop. Wait, wasn't Rarity there for the Hydra attack?
Yes. But
What?
she didn't know about the vibrating, I guess.
Oh, okay.
What? No,
And then what is it? Paris Price? A cockatrice? A dragon? Who is in Spike?
Dragon?
Screamed Fluttershy in terror before she zipped under a nearby table and cowered, peeking out fearfully.
Now calm down, Rarity.
Stated Applejack, putting her hose on Rarity's shoulders and making her look into her eye.
Now listen, last time the Hydra wasn't the doozy. It was after that when Twilight admitted she'd been wrong about Pinky Sense.
The orange earth pony explained.
Now, we still don't quite understand what it means, but it ain't anything like you think it is. If it was, she'd have been doing it when Discord or Nightmare Moon showed up, wouldn't she?
True. Well, I suppose... But if there's nothing to worry about, then why is Fluttershy cowering?
Rarity asked, pointing to Fluttershy, who was still hiding under the table, only her eyes visible as she peeked out fearfully.
Because y'all said dragons, and she's afraid of them.
Applejack replied.
Now calm down and let's just think about this.
She said, turning back to the vibrating Pinkie Pie.
You alright, Pinky?
Pinkie nodded despite her vibrating.
Yeah, it makes my voice sound silly. This is so fun.
At that moment, Trixie, back to her normal self, let herself in and blinked at the sight before her. Applejack, with her hair done up like she was going to some fancy party, and mildly hysterical, observing a vibrating Pinkie Pie while Fluttershy cowered under a table. Trixie responded, giving a raised eyebrow.
Is Trixie interrupting anything?
The group looked at her and blinked before realizing how strange it must have looked.
No, nothing at all. Pinkie Pie sense is just going off, and we're trying to figure out what's going on.
Trixie once more rose an eyebrow.
Pinky sense?
It's kind of complicated, Sugar Cube. But Pinkie gets these weird feelings that predict things. Like if her tail twitches, something's about to fall.
Applejack explained.
Normally on some pony's head.
In Twilight.
Trixie blinked.
Wait. Did I already say Trixie blinked?
No.
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 Well, now you just did.
Well,
Yeah.
there you go.
That
Well,
makes
well,
no
well.
sense.
Yeah, but Twilight believes it, after trying for a day to figure out how it worked, and afterwards not knowing any more about it than when she started. But we all believe it, and right now...
No, that's Rarity.
Sorry.
Okay, sorry.
But we all believe it, and right now, Pinky is predicting a doozy of something is about to happen right here.
Explained a still mildly ecstatic Rarity.
Please don't let it be something bad, not with all my beautiful dresses all ready for shipping. That would be the worst possible thing.
She exclaimed with her typically overly dramatic posing. Trixie gave a sigh, deciding it'd be less of a headache to just accept Pinky's weirdness and move on.
Regardless, Trixie is here simply to check and make sure everything's all right after her unfortunate mishap with the sewing machine.
Rarity looked back, giving a sympathetic look.
Everything is fine, Trixie, no need to worry.
She stated, giving a small smile.
That's just water under the bridge now, darling.
Trixie gave a small smile.
Alright, Trixie was merely checking in.
She said, but something felt strange. Why? She'd actually felt strange since she returned to her adult self, but wasn't sure why. Then it hit her. Rainbow Dash's sudden change of heart. At the time, as a little emotionally delicate filly, she'd been more relieved. Now she was confused. Even more than before. When to think about it, Rainbow Dash had been a perplexity since they'd met. The only one who acted as Trixie thought they would. Something was off.
Why was Rainbow so angry with Trixie? Trixie knows she hurt you all. There's something that's something she's seen. But why did Rainbow take it so hard? Normally Trixie wouldn't think much of it, but her being the only one of you that feels that way, there must be a reason for it.
It might be. Well, Rainbow was bullied a lot at flight school. So was I. And she always stood up for me.
Explained Fluttershy, crawling out fully from her hiding spot. Memories of Fluttershy can hardly fly, chants flashing in her mind briefly, and causing her to whimper lightly before she shook it off.
So, I guess you just opened some old wounds.
Trixie lowered her head, ears pinning as the full weight of that hit her. The realization of how painful her misdeed must have seeped into Rainbow Dash.
That would explain it. Trixie should have known better. Trixie was bullied as a filly. She knows what it's like. And she became one, she supposes.
She said to herself, then gave it a good deal of that. It actually felt good to apologize to her to Applejack. It took a huge weight off the unicorn, and she did know exactly how Rainbow Dash must feel, having been bullied herself. Trixie finally sighed, realizing what she had to do to make this right.
All that Trixie can do is go set things right. Trixie must go and make up with Rainbow Dash.
She announced in a slightly over-the-top and hammy fashion.
It is the only thing to be done.
This was created by a group jaw drop that Trixie, adult Trixie, had decided, completely of her own accord, to actually swallow her pride and apologize. And then Pinky launched into the air, doing a series of convulsions before landing with a blink at the vibrating ceased. She then giggled.
Oh, so that was the doozy.
Applejack faced off while the frustrated Rarity did an overdramatic feint onto a couch she pulled over telekinetically. Trixie blinked.
She does faint just like Trixie does. Is it really that surprising?
Applejack rubbed her head.
Kinda. Feeling guilty? No surprise, but swallowing your pride and deciding to apologize? We ain't seen you do that before. Not as your grown-up self, anyway. No offense.
None taken. Trixie understands.
she replied, realizing that she rarely, if ever, apologized for anything as an adult. The only time she'd done so yet was to her grandmother. She was the only one aware of that. Of course, it was surprising, now that she thought about it. It even surprised Trixie, so she decided it. Fluttershy nodded, then gasped as something popped into her head.
Oh, don't tell Rainbow I told you. She'll be so angry if she finds out.
Where am I? Okay. She stayed and realized she'd let out a secret of Rainbow's slip. Trixie nodded.
Trixie understands. Let Trixie guess. Pinkie Pie swear?
She asked, getting a nod. Trixie sighed.
Oh, all right. Cross Trixie's heart, hope to fly, stick a cupcake in her... Ah!